Ladies and gentlemen, the fight for Aastha in the Gyanvapi case has taken a new turn. The Varanasi Court today has rejected the plea filed by the Hindu side demanding carbon dating of the Shivling-like structure found in the Wazukhana of the mosque complex. Defending its decision, the court made it clear that carbon dating process may damage the structure, which goes against the Supreme Court's May 17 ruling. The top court had ordered that the Shivling found inside the Gyanvapi mosque should be protected. The Hindu petitioners called it a temporary setback, while the councils are all set to challenge this court's decision back in the Supreme Court. Listen in.
जो कार्बन डेटिंग की मांग है या अन्य वैज्ञानिक प्रणाली की मांग है, हम जो है पुनः हाई कोर्ट या सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाएंगे, लेकिन हिंदू समाज की अल्पकालिक झटका है, लेकिन इससे हम घबराने वाले नहीं है।
माननीय न्यायालय ने ये रीजनिंग दिया क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 17 मई के ऑर्डर से इस एरिया को सील कर रखा था, इसीलिए अगर हम कोई भी ऑर्डर पास करेंगे तो वो उस ऑर्डर का उल्लंघन होगा। तो मैं आपके सामने बयान देना चाहता हूँ कि इस ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाएंगे।
Even if there's no carbon dating, can these accounts and proofs be ignored? The 1965 UP government gazette records that Aurangzeb ordered the demolition of Hindu temples including Kashi Vishwanath in the year 1669. Aurangzeb's contemporary Saki Mustaid Khan in his book Masir-e-Alamgiri states that on orders of Mughal emperor the Kashi temple was demolished. The 1936 British map demarcates a portion of the temple which the mosque stands on today. On the other side, the Muslim side maintains that the fight is not over yet. Listen in to what they have to say.
आम जनमानस की धार्मिक भावना आस्था को भी ख्याल रखते हुए उनकी कार्बन डेटिंग की एप्लीकेशन निरस्त किया है। कोई जीत हार की बात नहीं है, ये एक इंटरलोक्यूटरी ऑर्डर है। इसका मेरिट पे कोई प्रभाव नहीं होगा। मेरिट पे तो एविडेंस से तय होगी।
With carbon out of the way for now, can Archaeological Survey of India, currently stayed by the Allahabad High Court, reveal the real truth? Remember, it was the evidence unearthed by the ASI that revealed how the temple existed beneath the mosque structure in the Babri Masjid case. From the pillars of the mosque having temple traces to water pitchers to terracotta sculptures, the clincher was discovered by the ASI. Not to forget that several temple traces have been found in the basement of the Gyanvapi mosque complex as well. Listen in to what the member of the Ram Mandir excavation process had to say.
I believe it is a Shivling because it can't be a fawara or fountain. Nowhere such type of fountain has ever been found. The fountains which we get from the Mughal times, they are slender, and on the top there is something of a shape of a bird. Secondly, the water also is put inside the fountain with some pressure, and there is no pond or anything through which the water can come.
And that brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Proofs pile up, but such buried. Is that the real situation of this Gyanvapi dispute? That's the question we're asking on the Newshour tonight.
कोर्ट ने तो कुछ भी नहीं माना। कोर्ट को अगर बस चले तो ये भी कह दे कि मुसलमानों को हिंदुस्तान में रहने का हक नहीं है। आज की स्थिति ये है, आज की अदालत की स्थिति ये है, कोई भी सच्ची बात मानने को तैयार नहीं है। अब किसी दबाव में है या वो भी आस्था के तहत बह जाते हैं और उसी हिसाब से फैसला देते हैं। हमने जितने मजबूत कागजात, जितने मजबूत दलाइल पेश किए अदालत में, कोई दलील मानने को तैयार, 1936 का फैसला वो मानने को तैयार नहीं है।
You're watching the News Hour at 9.
And joining me tonight on the show, Rahul Ishwar, activist, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Subhrashtra, author and founder of The Churn, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Majid Haidri, political analyst, also joining the Newshour tonight. But my first question goes to Mr. Vishnu Jain, lawyer of the Hindu side, joining me live from Varanasi. Tonight, I want to ask you, Vishnu Jain, how do you interpret the order that has been given by the Varanasi Court? Many are saying this the end of the so-called quest for truth because status quo continues, and that's exactly what the Muslim side wanted in this case. How do you see the verdict tonight?
No, Navika, very good evening to all of you, and I would like to say that it's not an end for a quest for truth, rather it's a beginning for a new struggle. The point is, I want to point out on your channel the order passed by the Supreme Court of 20th of May, and let me read and quote this para 2 subclause 1 of the Supreme Court. It specifically says, civil suit number 693 of 2021 shall stand transferred to the file of Civil Judge Senior Division Varanasi to the Court of District Judge Varanasi for trial, and all interlocutory and ancillary proceedings in the suit shall be addressed to and decided by the Court of District Judge. So the Supreme Court had specifically transferred the entire trial and asked the district judge to decide all the applications. Now today, if you will read the finding of the district judge, the Honorable District Judge has gone on to say that the Supreme Court has sealed this premises on 17th of May. So therefore, any order for ASI survey will violate the order of the Supreme Court. But the Honorable Court has failed to appreciate that the same judgment of the Supreme Court after 3 days of 20th of May has permitted the district judge to do it. And the point number 2, all these petitioners, because of this legal ramifications, had approached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that you approach the trial court and let the trial court decide the matters before the trial court. You file an appropriate application before the trial court, and in light of those directions, the petition was withdrawn before the Supreme Court and the trial court was approached. Now today it's like a like we are swinging from one court to the other court, because this court says that we can't do it because the Supreme Court has sealed it. Supreme Court says that you have to go to the trial court. So now we have no other option left but to again approach the Supreme Court. My other point is this, Navika, let me be very candid, that if one party is saying that this is a Shivling, the other party is saying that it's a fountain, what's the medium of decision? Any panelist can tell me that how will this be decided? Will it be decided by a plebiscite, or it can only be decided by an expert opinion? On your channel only, Navika, in various oral debates, lot of allegations have been made and remarks have been made on the Shivling. I don't want to make any remark. I am a lawyer. I want to prove my case through expert opinion. In Ram Mandir's case, there was an expert opinion which was ordered by the Honorable Allahabad High Court in 2002, and that became a benchmark for final decision of the case. So therefore, in this case, if we want to make a request that let there be a scientific investigation without destroying the Shivling, without damaging the Shivling, and the ASI director has gone on record to say that yes, it can be done. The court has not called upon the ASI to say that no, this demand cannot be fulfilled. The court has ex parte passed an order saying that no, this can't be done. Well, so, in my legal opinion, this judgment is completely erroneous, and therefore we will challenge it in the Supreme Court.
Tehseen Poonawala raising his hand. Tehseen Poonawala, what's your point of contention?
Namaskar, Navika ji, and namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. And I'm sure Vishnu Bhai will challenge it in the higher courts, and that's his legal right, and he must. And for his party, he's fighting a good fight. There are 2 or 3 points that I want to put across. All of this dispute has absolutely got complicated because so much of politics has got involved. What was the original dispute? Navika and I've been with you on the show regularly since the Gyanvapi dispute started. It was a few women who wanted to pray. This being stopped by an executive order of the government, then the Mulayam Singh Yadav government. This could have simply been undone by an executive order by the Adityanath government. The government in the first instance took its hands away. That's point number 1. Point number 2. Now, my appeal through your channel to all Muslim fellow citizens of India is, if the Hindu side does feel that it is a Shivling, let us respect it till a scientific method is evolved that it is a Shivling or no. But till such time, while that area is sealed, there must be absolutely no wazoo there. We as in Muslims cannot dip their feet within that area.
But that's been decided by the Supreme Court.
Yes,
you think the Muslim side will listen to you more than they'll listen to the Supreme Court?
That is sealed.
Because it is sealed. But now that this order's come, there should not be a new complication or demand to reopen that order by the Muslim side. That will show good faith. Don't now go to the Supreme Court and say unseal it. Let it be. Let the
that
faith
is
of
sealed
the
already.
Yeah. Agree, but they should not go and appeal. That's point number 2. They should not go and appeal to the court, say now unseal it. So that should be a step of good faith taken by the Muslim side, and they must take that step. Point number 3, and a very important step. Look, there is one issue that I flagged yesterday, and it's repeating today. What the Muslims are insecure is that the Places of Worship Act, which Vishnu Bhai challenged in another petition, will be abolished, and this will become a title dispute. That's what they are insecure about. That's point number 1. Now, whether the Places of Worship Act should be made insignificant or no, should be abolished or no, whether people should be allowed to worship here in the Hindu faith or no, that is a stand the government of India, the union government and the state government will have to take on affidavit. They have refused so far to take that stand on affidavit, and that affidavit needs to be put before the courts. That is something that the government.
Well, I think Tehseen Poonawalla, for once you're stumbling for facts to bolster your case simply because all of these have been decided by the Supreme Court. That the Wazoo Khana will remain sealed, Supreme Court has decided. That the government should file. Can I please? What if they go in a petition? No. So I'm saying that your point about Places of Worship Act and an affidavit by the government, 31st October is the deadline by which they have to submit it. So that date still hasn't really come. So what you're saying
even in this case, they haven't given an affidavit. Neither the union nor the state government. They haven't given an affidavit.
You are still charging the government of politicization of the whole matter.
They are.
I don't understand. Anand Ranganathan, Tehseen Poonawalla tonight is so confused. He says the whole case has been politicized and then accuses the government of not doing anything in the case. Ye charge kaisa hai? I'm not able to understand.
And good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, it's turning out to be really tragic because forget carbon dating. The destruction of Kashi Vishwanath has been dated exactly to 1669 by Aurangzeb. The half-demolished temple is right before your eyes, right there. Inside it, there are Hindu murals and deities. What more evidence do you want? Carbon dating cannot help. Ask a scientist or a geologist. I'm surprised people even suggested it. And more surprised that the court gave the wrong reason for not conducting it. You don't need to demolish the Shivling or something, damage it. You need a few micrograms to do that dating. But the fact is, you can only conduct carbon dating on living organisms. The age of the rock, in this case the Shivling, cannot be determined by carbon dating but by beryllium dating or argon dating, because rocks are hundreds of thousands or even millions of years old. So if the rock out of which the Shivling is made of comes out to be 2 million years old, how would that help us in establishing anything? The age of the rock, Navika, tells us nothing about the age of the Shivling or the fountain. Carbon dating will at best determine the age of dead bacteria or wood remnant in the rock crevice. But their age also isn't of any help. So as I said, the evidence has to be non-scientific and it is there all around the Gyanvapi. Let me explain very briefly, 1 minute. Number 1, it is beyond any doubt that Aurangzeb ordered the demolition of Kashi Vishwanath and ordered that the Gyanvapi mosque be built over it. It is written in the most authentic biography of Aurangzeb, Masir-e-Alamgiri, that in 1669 quote, on the orders of Aurangzeb, Kashi Vishwanath was demolished. The Farman is also archived in the Bikaner archives. And here is Sir Jadunath Sarkar's translation of Masir-e-Alamgiri, page 52, quote, Aurangzeb, eager to establish Islam, issued orders to the governors of all the provinces to demolish the schools and temples of the infidels, and which the utmost urgency put down the teachings and their public practice of the religion of these misbelievers, unquote. And yet, there are those who deny the Hindus their legitimate right to correct historical injustice, and principal among them, I'm afraid, are our legislature and the judiciary. To me, Navika, just 30 seconds, one of the most barbaric legislations ever enacted in India is the 1991 Place of Worship Act. A legal recourse to correcting historical injustices can be denied in a democracy. And this is not a Hindu issue, Navika. I as a Darwinian atheist, demand the abrogation of the place of worship act. Navika, just 30 seconds. If a mosque had been demolished by a Hindu king and a temple built on it, I, a kafir and an atheist for whom Islam sanctions death penalty, would have fought for the rights of Muslims to legally get back their mosque. Just 20 seconds. If an image could speak a million words, it would be that of the Nandi, waiting patiently for 400 years for his Lord to emerge and this historical injustice to be corrected. Carbon dating of the Nandi would tell us nothing about his age or patience. Just like that of the Shivling, it wouldn't.
Vishnu Jain wants to come into the points raised by you. Vishnu Jain.
Navika, can I respond to Tehseen and to Mr. Anand?
Yes, please go ahead.
Navika, the point is this, that first of all I would like to respond to Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. In this case, the court has already ruled that by the judgment of 12th of September, the Places of Worship Act is not attracted. So please don't connect the petition of Places of Worship Act with this case, because we have already got that judgment that we were praying in the premises in question till November 1993. So Places of Worship Act is not attracted. Now coming to the point of Mr. Anand Ranganathan, whom I respect a lot and who's a very learned person, I would like to say with utmost sense of humility that we had not demanded carbon dating of the Shivlingam. We had asked for scientific investigation of the entire Vazu area and we had asked for excavation. अगर वहाँ पे excavation होगा तो पता चलेगा कि नीचे शिवलिंग का अर्घा है कि नहीं है. यहाँ पे ये एक्सरसाइज नहीं कंडक्ट की जा रही है कि शिवलिंग कितना पुराना है वो जांच की जाए. I am sorry, sir. With utmost sense of respect, I would like to say that we had asked for excavation of that entire Vazu area so that we can find our argha. We can determine the nature that whether it's a fountain or a shivlingam. But and for that,
absolute.
Yeah, that was a demand. Anand sir,
10 seconds.
Anand sir,
just 10 seconds. I support you, Vishnu, in that. Yes. But if you've read the judgment, the court, the judges themselves say, we will not allow carbon dating. I'm quoting from them verbatim. So they have muddled the whole issue, haven't they?
Also, the
that's wrong.
Act does apply. It does apply.
Yes, that's wrong, because we had clarified on 7th of October that we have not asked for carbon dating of the Shivlingam. The matter was reserved for orders. The court, instead of passing the order on 7th of October, asked a clarification from us. We clarified that we have not asked for carbon dating of the Shivling. Time and again we have made a statement at the bar that we want excavation of the entire area. And the Supreme Court has permitted to do so, to move such application. But the issue has been mixed up with carbon dating of the Shivlingam. Yes. And let me ask you another question. Yes. The ASI was not called for. The ASI director has gone on to record to say that this kind of scientific investigation is possible. The excavation is possible. But without asking any questions from the ASI, without calling the ASI, suddenly the application is rejected and on a wrong footing, on a wrong premise that we are asking carbon dating of the Shivlingam.
Well, but even though you say that it is an erroneous judgment, the fact of the matter is that the Joint Secretary of the Intizamiya Committee just 2 days ago had stated that courts in this country are under pressure and they don't listen to Muslims and they give every verdict against the Muslims. Now, in just the last 48 hours, there are 2 verdicts that actually have not gone against the Muslims at all. Whether it is the hijab verdict or whether it is the Gyanvapi verdict, both have not gone against the Muslims. So, Mr. Majid Haidari, I want to ask you, Islam खतरे में तो नहीं है ना? Institutions मुसलमानों के खिलाफ तो नहीं है ना? कम से कम दोबारा कभी ऐसी बात तो नहीं करेंगे ना?
नाविका साहिबा, मैं तो ये कहूंगा कि सत्यमेव जयते. We have a collective belief that पंच के मुंह से परमेश्वर बोलता है. So in today's verdict, there is divine intervention. There is a divine message in this verdict. And that message, that verdict, this message is simple. Either follow the Places of Worship Act of 1991 or at least go by what Honorable Mohan Bhagwatji has said, that don't look for Shivling beneath every masjid. So either you abide by law or you at least adhere to what Honorable Mohan Bhagwatji is saying. Because we need, at the end of the day, we need Hindu-Muslim unity. Forget about Hindutva, forget about quote-unquote Islam is jihadist. At the end of the day, India needs Hindu-Muslim unity, and that can only come if we resolve this Gyanvapi issue through consensus. And the best consensus would be that if my Hindu brothers believe that the fountain is actually Shivling, so with respect, let the Muslim community relocate that Shivling to the mandir and the issue gets solved. Why do we need to drag it and make it a controversy for the next coming elections, for the Hindutva agenda, BJP's policies? We need to end this. Let's resolve it through this. Because there is a divine intervention. Parmeshwar ne kuch aaj kaha hai, wo aap samjhiye.
Absolutely not. Shocking. Navika, can I...
No, what are you saying? What are you saying? Anand Ranganathan, Vishnu Jain both raising their hands. Anand?
No, this is, with due respect to Mr. Choudhury, this is further muddling the water and absolutely shocking. Number one, the evidence is in front of our eyes. The temple has been demolished, the mosque stands on it. Why would the Hindus accept the Shivling being transferred to some other place? That is a temple, for heaven's sake. And number two, I asked this question the way I ended, my part of the debate. I ask again, Mr. Choudhury, if a Muslim mosque or an Islamic mosque had been demolished and a Hindu king had made a temple over it, would you not want that mosque to be returned to the Muslims? Yes or no?
Anand, there are two options. Either you adhere to the Places of Worship Act of 1991 or you believe in what Honorable Mohan
No, there is an option of challenging Places of Worship Act and that process is on in the court. That process is on in the courts. Rahul Ishwar wanting to come in. Rahul Ishwar, a new issue and a new solution has been found, which is likely to muddy the waters even more. If you want to call the structure, the disputed structure, Shivling, then you take it and go away somewhere else or apna mandir kahin aur banao. What kind of a issue or a solution is being suggested?
Navika ji, I totally disagree with Choudhury Saab when he says you have to take the Shivling and go. That's not the solution. But I totally agree with him when he says India cannot survive without Hindu-Muslim unity. And I totally endorse Pujaniya Sarsangchalak Mohan Bhagawat ji when he says we need not search for Shivling under every mosque. See, there are balanced position on both sides. We all know that there is a cultural subtext, there is a socio-political subtext in this. But if we check history, there was 4 temples which was considered very important and people wanted to get back. One was Somnath temple with the blessings of Mahatma Gandhi, Sri K.M. Munshi and Sardar Patel went ahead and went with it. Then it was Ayodhya, Mathura and Kashi. And RSS Sarsangchalak on record said we are not for any other agitations. There might be varied opinions because some people believe that almost 3,000 temples were demolished. Some people believe 40,000 temples were demolished. There were various opinions. Let us be very honest about it. But the issue is we cannot, on one side, there are historical injustices that need to be remedied. But on the other side, we cannot push our Muslim brothers into a panic mode. We need to find sensible solution. That's the reason why leaders of both communities should sit together and should talk to each other. KK Mohammed, who himself is from a very, very senior Muslim community member, came forward and said Kashi and Mathura are special for Hindus. These are Janmasthanams. They should be returned. If there can be some kind of consensus, because either we will end up in confrontation or we will end up in consensus. Let us not go for confrontation. There are some temples, because these are Janmasthanams are incredibly sacred. For a Hindu like me, Kashi is very sacred. Krishna's Janmasthanam Mathura is very sacred. So like Subramanya Swamiji rightly pointed out in Times Now day before yesterday, that some kind of consensus should be there and we should have a give and take policy. Otherwise our generations will end up in conflict with each other. And please remember, we cannot eternally search for any kind of deities under mosque, as Mohan Bhagawat ji rightly said. But I would request Muslim brothers to be sensitive about Kashi and Mathura because there is speciality associated with them. Let us talk to each other and find a consensus rather than confrontation.
You think consensus is possible, Majid Choudhury? Do you think there can be a conversation? Do you think there can be a middle ground? Majid Choudhury, first I want to know your view before I get in Subrashta ji and Anand Ranganathan.
See, Navika Saiba, there are 2 decent, peaceful ways, harmonious ways of resolving it. Either believe in Constitution that Places of Worship Act of 1991 does exist, or at least those who believe in Hindutva at least adhere to what the Mukhya ji is saying, what Honorable Dr. Mohan Bhagwat ji is saying. You don't want to adhere to law, you don't want to adhere to the voices of Hindutva ideologues, then what are you up to? Are you for a divide of Hindus and Muslims? Do you want to make a repeat of some kind of nano repeat of Babri Masjid? What are your plans? What are you...
No, Babri Masjid ki baat
we are ready even for the relocation.
This is...
No, where is Babri Masjid issue coming from? Where is it coming from? Repeat of Babri.
What only? See, Babri also started this way only. That Murti will be stopped there. Then they are saying, two women are saying they want to go for worship. After 30 years, they come out of slumber and they are reminded of the Aastha towards Gyanvapi Masjid, which has been Aurangzeb's Masjid. I mean, there should be some logic behind this. How do you suddenly come up with all of a sudden a volcanic shock of Aastha? From where does this Aastha come, please?
Where does this come from? You know, look at the manner in which that question is being asked, and I want to ask.
With all due regards, I said it.
With all due regard, where does this Aastha come from? With all due regard, where does this Aastha come from? Well, because he added the word with all due regard.
It won't even give you a small playground to conduct Ganesh Chaturthi. As I said, what I respect the Hindus, 1 billion Hindus, is that they are seeking the courts and justice to correct a historical wrong. What can be wrong in that in a democracy? And I am absolutely perturbed and scared by the virtue signaling of my good friend Rahul Ishwar, who's behaving more like Rahul Gandhi and less like Rahul Shiv Shankar. For him to say that we want only 4 mandirs, who is he to decide which mandir is more important? I have my Kul Devi. I can say tomorrow that mandir is more important than Ram Mandir. Yeah, who are you to say that Krishna Janamsthan is more important than my Kul Mandir? Who are you to say Rahul Shiv Shankar? I agree with Anand. So please don't do virtue signaling. Any temple that has been demolished and a mosque built over it, a Hindu has a rightful and just right to demand a historical injustice be corrected in a democracy. Otherwise, let us fold everything.
Rahul Ishwar caught on the wrong foot, and I invited Anand Ranganathan Zayar. You want to respond?
No. I'm a huge admirer of Anandji. Anandji knows that. But just one submission. In the same way, if the Buddhists start demanding many temples, if the ancient, different castes demanding many temples, it will end up in a quagmire. See, let us be honest about it. We have to, we cannot survive without unity. There needs to be some kind of a middle ground. That's the reason why people like Subramanya Swami or Mohan Bhagawatji also emphasizing on the point.
No, middle ground. Then what is the middle ground? Why do you say the middle ground is only after these 3 places, and middle ground is not after 6 places? Who is to decide where the middle ground definition come from? That's a question, and I'm happy to invite also Kamaru Choudhury. I want to ask you, the question here is that there is always an issue, an atmosphere of the victim card being played, that the courts in this country are under the influence of the majority community. They are under pressure. Muslims will never get justice. That's the normal statement that is being made. Or to the other extreme, which says कि सरकार के पास चले जाओ, because they are going to make a Hindu Rashtra out of this, and you can take whatever, and therefore Muslims are under threat. Islam is under threat. I want to ask you tonight, the judgment that has come from the Varanasi District Court, the judgment has not gone into the merits of the demand that was being made. It nowhere has said that the Shivling is not a Shivling or has gone into the matter. All it says is that if we go into a carbon dating technique, then there might be penetrating of the ground radar, and that might just damage the Shivling, and it also goes against the Supreme Court's order, which says that you have to keep that completely safe, and it may, if anything, any damage happens to that structure, then it can create लिखा है जनता की धार्मिक भावनाओं को भी चोट पहुंच सकती है. So clearly it understands that this is an issue which is an emotional issue, an issue of faith, which does impact the community. How are we to resolve this entire issue if not through a scientific process?
Now, Navika, there are 2 issues and 2 aspects to this. First of all, my Hindu brothers and sisters of this country, they have got every right to know the history of this country. What happened to the temples, how they were destroyed, or how alternate temples were built by the Mughals, or whatever happened some 400 to 500 years ago. That is one part of the story. The second part is, you have a right to know history, but do you have a right to correct history? That is the important question after 500 years. Now you cannot just vilify the present day Muslims and say that, okay, look, Aurangzeb has done so much to us in terms of torture, in terms of destroying our temples. So now the present day Muslim, tumhara Aastha ka koi jagah nahi hai. Now we will need to correct that part of the history. This is absolutely wrong, because once we gained independence in 1947, we provided ourselves a constitution, and the country runs on the constitution. The courts are there to decide on the merits of any case. In 1991, we promulgated the Right to Worship Act 1991, wherein there are plenty of disputes that are there in the country on religious and sectarian lines. They will be decided on those. But then this part I want to repeat, we have got a right to know our history, but do we have the right to correct history?
That is the problem. The Places of Worship Act of 1991 is the problem, Kamaru Choudhury, gifted by the Congress to this country. Because in a democracy, in a constitution,
Navika ji, this is wrong. The country, the constitution, the law enacted has been gifted to us by the country itself, by the parliament enacted this law.
May I complete my point, sir? May I complete my point, sir? May I complete my point, sir? I'm saying that if that law did not exist, then Hindus, if they had a dispute, could have gone to the court and sought a resolution on the matter in a constitutional manner, something that is ensured for them in the constitution. But the 1991 Places of Worship Act has blocked that route for the people of India, and that is where it becomes unfair in disputes like this. You are saying that 1991 backdates all the disputes, and situation of August 15, 1947 should prevail for everything, and no further disputes should be raised. Isn't that the real beginning of the problem, Vishnu Jain?
It's absolutely Places of Worship Act is an issue, and the constitutional validity of Places of Worship Act is under challenge before the Supreme Court. There are various questions on which the Supreme Court is going to determine the issue, that whether it is in violation of Article 300A, Article 14, Article 15, Article 21, Article 25, Article 27. But the point here, Navika, is that if we talk about Gyanvapi and Mathura, in both the cases we have secured orders from the that Places of Worship Act is not attracted here. Places of Worship Act is a bad law. It takes away the right of judicial review. That's a separate question which is being deliberated upon in the Supreme Court. But my point here is this. I was listening to the various panelists. The point here is this, that if Order 26 Rule 10A of the CPC says that yes, a scientific commission can be issued, and we are asking for, and I'm again telling Navika, it's a big misnomer that we have asked for carbon dating of the Shivlingam. We had clarified on affidavit before the court. The ASI was not called for. The ASI director has gone on to record to say that yes, without touching the Shivlingam, scientific investigation can be done. And I want to ask you and request you and beg you today that please project my application on your channel, where the first prayer was ground penetration radar. In ground penetration radar, the Shivlingam will not even be touched. It will be ascertained that what's the length and breadth of the Shivlingam.
Why didn't you argue?
But the court has given an expert opinion without calling the experts.
Your application was rejected.
And therefore,
that's the moot point. That is the end.
Sir, I am arguing. Sir, yes, I know. So when Akbaruddin Owaisi comes on and gives his speech after the rejection of the court, why don't you ask Owaisi to go and argue in the court? He doesn't even argue in the court. I argue in the court, and I argue before the public also. And then definitely, sir, I will argue. And definitely, sir, I'll argue to Supreme Court. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. See, if I disagree with the judgment of the court, definitely I have the right to come and say, yes, I disagree with the judgment of the court. No, why not? Navika, I don't have the right. Navika, I want to ask a question. I don't have the right to come and say
fair point, but as things stand today, fair point, everybody has a right to go to a higher court, everybody has a right to challenge judgments that come out. Everybody has a right to give their point of view, but as things stand today, your request has not been granted by the court, and that's the verdict today. What happens tomorrow when you go in appeal, we don't know.
Navika, I had been wanting to come for a very long time. Can I?
Tessin bhai. I just want to ask. No, just one question. I just want to ask a question with humility. I want to ask you actually. Navika, is this, as Vishnu Jain says, an act not under the POW, therefore women should be allowed to pray? Or is this, as Anand says, a title dispute? Because Anand's arguments are leading to a title dispute, and he says the temple should be reclaimed. So what is this dispute? And therefore my claim that somebody has to take a stand. Anand's stand is completely different from Vishnu Jain's stand, whereas the stand of Mr. Kamruddin and me is absolutely consistent at Rahul Ishwar. So it is in the other party that there's a dispute in stand. Can we get clarity on what they want? Do they want their mosque to be a temple, or do they just want to pray there? Let's understand what they want.
Tehseen Poonawalla still hasn't understood what the question is.
Tehseen understands very well. Tehseen is asking Anand the question.
Tehseen, by all accounts, I need a lunch not only from you but from Kamru bhai also, because let me explain 2 points. Number one, Navika. Sabse pehle to I think this should be breaking news on your channel, because Mr. Vishnu Jain has clarified that he never asked for carbon dating. And the judges have said we will not allow carbon dating. Now, how can they allow or disallow something that was never asked for? That itself is amazing. Number two, this is also a fact that when you said that the Congress brought in the POW or Place of Worship Act, and Mr. Kamru immediately jumped on you and said, no, no, no. Congress didn't bring in. Nation brought in. By that logic, was it Congress that overturned the Shah Bano judgment, or was it the nation? जब मन आता है तो कांग्रेस करती है, जब मन आता है तो नेशन करता है. The fact of the matter is, by natural justice.
This is not a whataboutery situation. We are discussing a particular topic. Let's stick to that.
Yes, I am sticking to rebutting your point, which I found illogical. And
why are you bringing in the Shah Bano? You bring in the Shah Bano, triple talaq doesn't help.
Because by your logic, you would be saying that Congress did not overturn the Shah Bano judgment. It was the nation that overturned it. Correct? Because you are saying Congress did not bring in the POW Act, the nation brought it.
Can I please ask a lawyer? The Act of Parliament is not a political party's act.
I didn't interrupt.
भाई आपने दुखती रग पे हाथ रखा है तो थोड़ा रिएक्शन तो सुनना पड़ेगा आनंद रग.
नहीं होगा नसों पे बहुत सारी नसें हैं जो दुख रही हैं. मैंने सिर्फ एक पे हाथ रखा है. बट नंबर टू, how can a law make an exception? How can a law make an exception for Ram Janambhoomi that the Place of Worship Act makes? Does it mean to say that claiming Krishna Janambhoomi is less important than claiming Ram Janambhoomi? ये कौन सा आर्गुमेंट है भाई? मेरे लिए कृष्णा इज बिगर देन राम, आई कैन से. आप मुझे अलाउ नहीं कर रहे, लेकिन राम भक्तों के. सो इट इज अ टेरिबल बैड लॉ दैट प्रिवेंट्स हिंदूज फ्रॉम सीकिंग नेचुरल जस्टिस एंड टू करेक्ट हिस्टोरिकल इनजस्टिस. इस पे ओनली दोज पीपल, I'm afraid I am making a very strong statement. Only those people who have an axe to grind and who love Aurangzeb can be against Hindus going to court legitimately and pleading for justice.
Why don't you relocate for the sake of Hindu-Muslim harmony?
Why don't you look at
so relocation idea refuses to leave Majid Haidari.
And now you are saying relocate. Why don't you relocate Gyanvapi?
I am saying relocate the artifacts. Are artifacts more important or
they are not artifacts, sir. They are not artifacts,
sir. Before the mosque. If anything has to be relocated, it has to be the mosque. So why don't you, Mr. Haidari?
The great mosque is a structure. It's an immovable property. It's an immovable asset.
No, it is not.
So we are talking about something which can be relocated, which is movable, which is transportable. I mean, have some senses. A building is an immovable property.
My friend, let me tell you that your statement is not only against the feelings or beliefs of several Hindus, number one, but that's a grey area, neither here nor there, but it's also against the Supreme Court's order. The Supreme Court's order says कि आपको प्रिजर्व करना है और लोकेशन पे प्रिजर्व करना है. आप कह रहे लेके चले जाओ भाई, लेके चले जाओ, ये कपड़े का टुकड़ा है.
Navika Sahiba, this can be an out of court settlement and we'll take it with due regards. करके जाएंगे, आदर से रखेंगे.
Out of court settlement. कमरू ज़मान चौधरी and Tehseen Poonawalla.
Tell me,
Can I come in?
Tell me a Muslim who did not accept the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid order. But I can tell you several political people who said if a Ram temple order is not given by the Supreme Court, India will become Syria. So look, Muslims have accepted the constitutional courts. They bowed their head before it. They may disagree with it, but they bowed their head before it. And I think that's the way it should be. So I think Anand still not clarified whether this is an issue of praying or it's a title dispute.
In this case, how many people are saying they will not believe the Supreme Court or any court?
OAC is BJP. Take it from me. OAC is Bharatiya Janata Party. OAC is here to polarize this country.
Well,
take it from me.
Well, the only time I know he has been part of a government has been in the Congress regime
and Congress
as an alliance partner. So Tehseen Poonawala, ज्ञानवापी की हिस्ट्री ना आती हो तो कांग्रेस की हिस्ट्री तो पढ़ लो. कांग्रेस की हिस्ट्री तो पढ़ लो भाई. Kamruzaman Choudhury wants to come in. Kamruzaman Choudhury, what is your contention when Majid Hydari and people like him suggest that these are artifacts which you can take and go away और कहीं और मंदिर बना लो? Do you think? Navika,
we have to be very sensitive about the people's sentiments of this country, because we Indians is 100% Aastha Jewish. There is nobody who is not an Aastha Jivi in this country. Let us take that for granted and let us accept the fact. There were some wrongs in the history. Aurangzeb destroyed thousands of temples in this country. Take it for granted. I have got a right to know what happened to in our history. But then, Navika, and I have no right to correct it, or I do not have a right to go to the court to get it corrected. Anand Ranganathan, that is the bottom line of the Congress party. I have the right to know what is in my history, but I have no power to correct it, and I do not even have the right to go to a court to get it corrected.
Kamruji, 2 points. Number one, may I humbly disagree with you. When you said that 100% Indians are Aastha Jivi, as you know, Tehseen and I both are atheists. I am Darwinian atheist. I don't know what quality of atheism.
Point decimal percentage, sir.
You don't matter.
साइंस की तरफ से मेरी साइंस में आस्था है तो आप ठीक है मैं आस्था जी.
I am also scientific. I also have science in my background history, but that doesn't give you any logic to hurt the sentiments of the Indians. Well, that is another question.
Well, but then, you know, the matter here is today the wait just got longer. Is it really an end to those who are in the quest of the truth, looking for a resolution to this entire issue of the Gyanvapi mosque? The question is, the wait just got longer. We don't know which way it's going to go. But clearly, the quest for truth will continue. In what form, how it will be rewarded or rejected, we don't know. All eyes on that. The struggle just got longer.